This arena was built to break humans. Thousands of alien eyes watched in silence, waiting for another human to fall. But this man didn't come here to die. He walked forward carrying the rage of an entire planet. Advanced armor cracked. Alien blood touched the ground for the very first time. And in that moment, fear was born. On his knees, the alien champion begged for mercy. But mercy was buried back on Earth. When the human raised his fist, the galaxy learned a terrifying new truth. Humans don't beg. Humans end wars. This isn't just a story. It's the beginning of a saga. Welcome back, story lovers. Today, we're diving deep into a galaxy far, far away, to a place known only as the Crucible. This wasn't just any arena. It was a monument to alien superiority, a cosmic theater built for one grim purpose: to break the spirit of humanity. For centuries, the galaxy's most formidable empires had captured humans, not just for labor or conquest, but for sport. They threw them into the Crucible, pitting them against bioengineered monstrosities and seasoned alien gladiators, all for the roaring approval of 1,000 different species. The message was always the same: humans are weak, fragile, and ultimately conquerable. Every fight was broadcast across the star systems, a brutal form of propaganda. The Crucible was designed to be unwinnable for them. The gravity was manipulated, the atmosphere was thinned just enough to cause fatigue, and the creatures they faced were nightmares given flesh, bred in labs to exploit every known human weakness. The psychological toll was immense. Hope was a currency that bought you nothing but a slower, more painful end in the crimson sands of the arena. The games were a spectacle of despair, a masterclass in psychological warfare. But tonight was different. A new challenger had been brought in, a human who was unlike any they had seen before. He wasn't a soldier or a warrior from some primitive Earth tribe. He was a Terran engineer named Kalen, captured during a deep space survey mission. He was of average height, unassuming, and by all accounts, unremarkable. The bookies gave him less than a minute. The crowd jeered, their multifaceted eyes gleaming with anticipation for another swift, decisive victory for the house champion, a hulking, four-armed beast known as the Gorok. They expected to see fear, panic, and a desperate, futile struggle. They were about to be very, very disappointed. As the massive gates ground open, the Gorak lumbered into the arena, its roars shaking the very foundations of the stadium. It was a terrifying sight, a creature of pure, unadulterated rage. Kalen stood opposite, not with a sword or a shield, but with a few scavenged tools he had managed to modify in his cell. The crowd laughed. Tools against the galaxy's deadliest predator. This was going to be a comedy. The starting horn blared, and the Gorok charged, a living avalanche of muscle and fury. But Kalen didn't run. He didn't cower. He watched, his eyes darting, calculating, analyzing. He wasn't seeing a monster. He was seeing a system with flaws. Instead of meeting the charge head-on, Kalen dodged, using his smaller size and agility to his advantage. He wasn't just evading. He was leading the beast on a specific path. As the Gorak thundered past, Kalen jammed a modified power conduit into a maintenance panel on the arena wall. Sparks flew. The crowd murmured in confusion. The Gorak, enraged at missing its target, turned and charged again. This time Kalen tossed a small, repurposed scanner onto the sand. The device emitted a high-frequency pulse. It did nothing to the Gorak directly, but it overloaded a nearby stasis field generator hidden beneath the floor, causing a section of the ground to become supermagnetized. The Gorak, whose armored hide was rich in ferrous metals, suddenly found its feet locked to the ground. It roared in frustration, unable to move. The crowd fell silent. This had never happened before. The arena masters in their control booth scrambled, trying to override the system, but Kalen had been precise. He hadn't just broken a piece of equipment, he had created a cascading failure. While the beast was immobilized, Kalen calmly walked over to another wall panel, pried it open, and rewired the arena's atmospheric controls. He didn't turn off the oxygen. That would be too simple. He enriched it, pumping pure O2 into the Gorex section. For a creature adapted to a thin, nitrogen-heavy atmosphere, the sudden rush of pure oxygen was like poison. The Gorak choked, its powerful lungs burning. It stumbled, weakened, its roars turning into gasps. The fight was over without Kalen ever landing a physical blow. He hadn't overpowered the beast. He had outthought the entire system. He had used the arena against itself. Standing in the center of the silent stadium, Kalen looked up at the control booth, not with defiance, but with a cold, analytical stare. The message was clear. You built this arena to break us, to show the galaxy our weaknesses. But you forgot one thing. You forgot what humans do best. We don't just fight. We adapt. We innovate. We learn the rules of your game, and then we break them. Tonight, the Crucible hadn't broken a human. It had just shown the entire galaxy why they should be afraid of them. The cold metal floor of the transport rattled against my bones. I wasn't alone. Chained beside me were creatures from a dozen different star systems, each one more terrifying than the last. There was a hulking, four-armed beast with skin like granite, and a lithe, insectoid warrior whose mandibles clicked with a chilling rhythm. And then there was me, a human, soft, fragile, and utterly out of place. We were all prisoners, cargo destined for the grandest, most brutal spectacle in the galaxy, the Cathar blood arenas. Our captors, the hulking reptilian Cathar, dragged us from the ship and into the blinding light of a crimson sun. The roar of the crowd was a physical force, a tidal wave of sound that crashed over us. They jeered and pointed, their alien laughter echoing in the vast coliseum. They saw us as nothing more than cannon fodder, entertainment for their bloodthirsty appetites. The bookies set the odds for our survival at 1,000,000 to 1. No one believed a human could last more than a few seconds. We were thrown into the holding pens beneath the arena, a labyrinth of steel and despair. The air was thick with the stench of fear and alien sweat. The four-armed giant next to me, a creature called a Gorn, rumbled in a low guttural tone. A universal translator, implanted by our captors, flickered to life in my ear. He was telling me that resistance was futile, that our only purpose was to die for the crowd's amusement. He had seen countless species come and go. None survived their first match, but he didn't know humanity. He didn't know what we were capable of when our backs were against the wall. They saw weakness in our soft skin, our lack of natural armor, our too simple arms. They mistook our biology for our spirit. They didn't see the fire of adaptation, the spark of ingenuity that had carried us from caves to the stars. They saw a victim. I would show them a survivor. The gate creaked open. My name, or the designation they had given me, echoed through the arena. It was time. As I stepped onto the blood-soaked sand, the Gorn looked at me, his four eyes filled with a strange mix of pity and morbid curiosity. The crowd's roar intensified. Across the field, my opponent was released. It was a Scytheclaw, a predator native to a high-gravity world, all lightning-fast reflexes and razor-sharp limbs. It towered over me, its shrieks promising a quick and painful end. The odds were impossible. The situation was hopeless. The Cathar wanted a bloody show, and they expected me to provide it. But as the Scytheclaw charged, I didn't see an insurmountable monster. I saw patterns. I saw openings. I saw the overconfidence of a predator that had never been prey. They had chained a human. Yes, they had thrown me into their arena. But what they had truly done was unleash something they could never hope to understand. They thought they were watching a lamb being led to the slaughter. They were about to learn that even the quietest prey can have the sharpest teeth. The games had just begun. Have you ever felt that moment? That tipping point where fear just disappears? Where all the noise, all the threats, all the reasons to stay quiet are drowned out by a single, powerful feeling. It's not about being fearless. It's about something else taking over. This is a story about that moment. Imagine a city square, packed with people. The air is thick, not with excitement, but with a heavy, suffocating silence. On one side, power, gleaming and absolute. On the other, a crowd, heads bowed, shoulders slumped, a sea of defeated eyes. For days, for weeks, maybe for years, they've been told what to do, what to think, how to feel. They've been pushed down, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but compliance. The rules are simple. Don't speak up. Don't look them in the eye. Don't resist. Just obey, and maybe you'll be left alone. It's a bargain made from fear, a trade of dignity for a fragile peace. Everyone is playing their part. The powerful make their proclamations, their voices booming with unearned confidence. The crowd shuffles, their silence a form of agreement. It's a well-rehearsed play, and everyone knows their lines, even if those lines are just nothing. It's the silence of 1,000 unheard screams. And then, it happens. A single movement. It's not dramatic, not a grand gesture. It's just one person taking a single step forward. The crowd parts for him like water around a stone. A man. He's not a giant, not a warrior clad in armor. He looks just like everyone else. His clothes are worn, his face etched with the same lines of worry and weariness as his neighbors. But something is different. He's not afraid. You can see it in his posture. He's not cowering. His shoulders aren't hunched. He stands straight, a lone pillar in a field of reeds. The silence in the square changes. It's no longer heavy and defeated. It's sharp, electric. Every eye is on him. The ones in power, their smug expressions falter for just a second. Confusion flickers across their faces. Who is this? What is he doing? He keeps walking. Step, step, step. Each footfall echoes in the unnatural quiet. He's walking toward the source of the fear, toward the very people everyone else avoids. He's not begging. His hands aren't outstretched, pleading for mercy or a handout. There's no submission in his eyes. He's not asking for permission to exist. He's not there to negotiate the terms of his own oppression. Begging admits they have the power to give. He's not giving them that. There's only one thing on his face. One raw, undeniable emotion that has burned away everything else. He's angry. It's not a wild, uncontrolled rage. It's a focused, cold, clear fire. It's the anger of a person who has seen one injustice too many. The anger of someone who has swallowed his words for the last time. It's the anger that says, no more. It's an anger that isn't about destruction, but about drawing a line. A final, unbreakable line in the sand. He stops. He stands before them, one man against a monolith. He doesn't need to shout. His presence is a roar. His silence is a speech. In that moment, he isn't just one man anymore. He's the embodiment of every silent scream, every bowed head, every person in that crowd who wished they could do the same. He's not a hero because he has a special power. He's a champion because he found the courage to be the first. He stepped forward, not afraid, not begging, just angry. And in doing so, he showed everyone else that the ground they stood on was theirs to claim. The galactic arena roared, a symphony of 1,000 alien species baying for blood. Down on the sands, I stood opposite the Xylosian champion, Skarn. They called him the Unbroken. 8 feet of rippling crimson muscle, 4 arms tipped with obsidian claws, and a reputation that echoed through a dozen star systems. He hadn't just won his previous 100 fights. He had dismantled his opponent's piece by agonizing piece. The betting odds weren't just against me. They were a joke, 1,000,000 to 1. For the fragile human, the starting gong chimed, a deep, resonant clang that vibrated through my bones. Skarn didn't wait. He didn't posture or roar for the crowd. He was a blur of motion, a crimson storm closing the distance in a single, terrifying bound. He was faster than anything I'd ever seen, a predator in his element. His top right arm lashed out, the obsidian claw aiming for my throat. A killing blow, right from the start. No games, no mercy. I smiled. That's the thing they didn't understand about humans. They saw our soft skin, our single pair of limbs, our comparatively small stature, and they saw prey. They studied our physiology, our history of internal conflict, our short lifespans, and they saw a species destined for cosmic mediocrity. They saw weakness. They never bothered to look deeper. They never considered what it takes for a creature like me to survive in a universe that doesn't want it to. Time seemed too slow. Skarn's attack was a masterpiece of alien biology, pure speed, pure power. For any other creature in this arena, it would have been the end. But I wasn't any other creature. I was human, and we learned to fight things bigger, faster, and stronger than us before we even reached for the stars. We did it with rocks and sharpened sticks against mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. The principle was the same, only the scale had changed. I didn't try to block. That would be like trying to stop a comet with a piece of paper. I didn't try to dodge backward. His reach was too great, his momentum too overwhelming. Instead, I did the one thing he never expected. I moved forward. I dropped low, twisting my body under the lethal arc of his claw. The wind from his strike ruffled my hair, the air crackling with its passage. I could feel the heat of his body, smell the coppery scent of his alien bloodlust. As I moved under his arm, my own hand came up. I wasn't holding a plasma blade or a vibro knife, just a simple piece of sharpened, hardened steel, a relic by galactic standards, primitive, a toothpick against his biological arsenal. But it's not the tool that matters, it's how you use it. My target wasn't his armored carapace or his thick limbs. It was the soft, vulnerable junction where his arm met his torso, a bundle of alien tendons and nerves. I spent weeks studying. My blade slid in. It wasn't a deep cut, barely a few inches, but it was precise. Skarn's roar of anticipated victory choked into a gargled cry of shock and pain. His primary attacking arm went limp, hanging uselessly at his side. He staggered back, his three other arms flailing, his confident predator's eyes now wide with confusion and disbelief. The roar of the crowd faltered, a wave of collective astonishment silencing thousands. They had come to see a slaughter. They had come to see the human broken. But the first blood wasn't mine. It was his. I rose to my full height, wiping a smear of his crimson blood from my cheek. I twirled the simple steel knife in my hand, its point now gleaming under the alien suns. I let my smile widen, showing him my teeth, a gesture his species would interpret as a sign of aggression. Good. Let him be aggressive. Let him be angry. Let him forget all his training and come at me with blind rage. Because that's another thing they don't get about us. We don't just survive. We don't just endure. When you back us into a corner, when you threaten everything we hold dear, when you underestimate us, we thrive. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the unbroken was now broken. The roar of the Colosseum was deafening, a symphony of 1,000 different alien species, all baying for blood. Down on the sand, another combatant bit the dust. The crowd, a writhing mass of scales, fur, and chitin, went wild. This was the highlight of their cycle, watching beings from lesser-known worlds fight for their amusement. And the hot new favorite, humans. They were a recent discovery, these soft-skinned bipeds from a distant blue planet. The slavers had brought a fresh batch, and they were, for the most part, wonderfully disappointing. They broke easily, a single swipe from a Cathar claw, a quick zap from a Zorpian energy whip, and it was over. The cheers were always loudest for the quick, brutal finishes. It was good sport. Today's main event was a human, just like the others. The announcer's voice, a gravelly boom that echoed through the stadium, introduced him simply as Subject 734. No name, no history, just a number. He was smaller than most of the humans they'd seen before, wiry rather than muscular. The crowd leaned forward in anticipation, placing their bets. Most wagered he wouldn't last a minute against his opponent, a Grox, a hulking quadruped with a hide like granite and tusks that could pierce starship hulls. The gate lifted, and the Grox thundered onto the sand, its roar shaking the very foundations of the arena. The human just stood there, watching. The initial wave of cheers began to build. This was going to be another satisfyingly short match. The Groks charged. It was a terrifying sight, a living mountain of muscle and rage hurtling across the arena. The human didn't run. He didn't even flinch. At the very last second, just as the Groks was about to impale him, he saw. It was a fluid, almost lazy movement. The Groks, propelled by its own momentum, slammed into the far wall, stunned. A few confused chirps and clicks rippled through the crowd. That wasn't supposed to happen. The Groks shook its massive head, enraged, and charged again. This time, the human dropped low, sliding under the beast's belly and coming up behind it. He had a small, sharp piece of metal in his hand, probably scavenged from his cell. As he rose, he dragged it across the Groks' unprotected hind leg. It wasn't a deep cut, but it was precise. The Groks bellowed in pain and fury, spinning around. But the human was already gone, dancing just out of reach. The cheers were starting to die down now, replaced by a low, curious hum. This wasn't the usual panicked flailing they were used to. This was something else. For the next 10 minutes, the pattern repeated. The Groks would charge, and the human would evade, using the beast's own strength and size against it. A sidestep here, a duck there. Each time, he left another small, stinging cut. He was a phantom, a whisper of movement on the sand. He never stood still, his feet constantly shifting, keeping him balanced, ready. The Groks was getting tired, its movements becoming slower, more predictable. Its hide was now crisscrossed with dozens of small wounds, each one bleeding slowly, sapping its strength. The crowd was silent. They had never seen anything like this. Their simple, brutal sport had turned into a display of strategy and endurance. They watched, mesmerized, as the human systematically dismantled a creature 10 times his size. He wasn't just surviving, he was dissecting his opponent. He was using his mind, not just his body. Finally, the exhausted Groks collapsed onto one knee, its heavy breaths fogging the air. The human walked calmly towards it. He didn't gloat. He didn't roar in triumph. He simply placed the tip of his metal shard against a vulnerable spot under the Groks' jaw. The beast looked at him, its large, black eyes filled not with rage, but with a strange kind of understanding. Then, it slumped to the sand, defeated. A stunned silence hung over the Colosseum. Not a single cheer, not a single jeer. The aliens looked at each other, their multifaceted eyes wide with confusion and a dawning sense of awe. They had seen strength, they had seen brutality, but this was different. This was resilience, this was intelligence. On the sand below, the small, unassuming human stood over the fallen beast, his chest rising and falling steadily, and in that moment, a chilling thought rippled through the minds of 1,000 different species. If one of these fragile humans could do this, what could an army of them do? Have you ever witnessed something that just completely rewrites what you thought was possible? A moment so intense, so powerful, it feels like it bends reality itself. Today, we're not talking about superheroes or mythical legends. We're talking about the raw, untamed power that lies within the human body. Think about it. We live in an age of incredible technology. We have machines that can lift tons, computers that can outthink us, and gadgets that connect us across the globe in an instant. We've become so reliant on these tools that sometimes we forget the original machine, the one that started it all, ourselves. Let's journey back in time to the dusty arenas of ancient Greece. Picture the scene, thousands of spectators, the sun beating down, and in the center, 2 figures. No advanced gear, no high-tech supplements, just muscle, bone, and an iron will. Every movement, every strike, wasn't powered by an engine. It was powered by a lifetime of discipline, a heart pounding with adrenaline, and a spirit that refused to break. This wasn't a spectacle of technology. It was a testament to human potential. Now, fast forward to today. We see it in the world of sports. An Olympic weightlifter, standing before a barbell that seems impossibly heavy. The crowd holds its breath. You see the focus in their eyes, the straining of every single muscle fiber. They aren't just lifting metal. They are lifting the weight of expectations, years of training, and the very limits of human strength. When that barbell goes up, it's a victory for the entire human race. It's a message that says, we can do more, we can be more. But this incredible strength isn't just for elite athletes. It's in the firefighter running into a burning building, fueled by a desperate need to save a life. It's in the mother who finds a surge of adrenaline to protect her child from danger. These aren't calculated acts. They are primal, instinctual bursts of power that defy logic. This is raw human fury, a force of nature channeled through our very being. This fury isn't about uncontrolled anger. It's about passion. It's about channeling every ounce of your emotion, your drive, your very essence, into a single, focused point. It's the artist, lost in their work, pouring their soul onto a canvas. It's the musician, whose fingers fly across the keys, creating a storm of sound that moves 1,000 hearts. This is the creative fury that builds civilizations, that writes symphonies, that pushes us to explore the stars. So, where does this leave us? It leaves us with a profound truth. The greatest technology we will ever possess is the one we were born with. Our bodies are capable of incredible feats of strength. Our minds can overcome unimaginable obstacles. And our spirit holds a fire, a raw and beautiful fury that, when unleashed, can shake the world. Next time you feel limited, next time you feel weak, remember the power that flows through your veins. You are the descendant of survivors, of builders, of explorers. You carry within you a legacy of strength that no machine can ever replicate. It's not about being the strongest person in the room. It's about unlocking your own personal best, pushing your own boundaries, and discovering the giant that sleeps within you. This isn't just a story. This is a call to action. To look in the mirror and see not just a person, but a powerhouse of potential. To recognize that every challenge is an opportunity to tap into that deep well of strength. It's at time to stop underestimating ourselves and start embracing the incredible force that is the human spirit. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey today. The battle raged for 3 days. 3 days since the skies over New London had torn open, spitting out ships of jagged metal and malevolent light. Their occupants, the Xylos, were nightmares made real. Towering figures encased in shimmering, chrome-like armor that deflected our best weapons like raindrops. Plasma rifles, kinetic cannons, even the old-school stuff we desperately pulled from museums. Nothing worked. Their armor was perfect, a seamless, flowing carapace that seemed to ripple and reform with every hit. For 72 hours, we had done nothing but die. They moved with a chilling, predatory grace. Their energy weapons carving through buildings and bodies with equal, indifferent ease. I was with the 7th Infantry, or what was left of it. We were pinned down in the ruins of what used to be a library. Dust, smoke, and the smell of ozone filled the air. Our commander, a grizzled old sergeant named Rex, was trying to rally us, but you could see the hope draining from his eyes with every unanswered radio call. Then, one of them found us. It stepped through a shattered wall, its form nearly 7 feet tall, the polished chrome of its armor reflecting the fires of the city. Its weapon, a long-bladed staff pulsing with blue energy, hummed ominously. We opened fire, a futile gesture of defiance. The bullets sparked and whined off its chest, not leaving so much as a scratch. It raised its staff, the blue light intensifying, and I knew this was it. This was the end. But then, something impossible happened. From the side, a figure slammed into the Xylos. It was Kai, a private from our squad. A quiet kid, barely 20, who'd spent most of the invasion just trying to keep the civilians safe. He wasn't wearing any armor, just his torn fatigues. He didn't have a weapon. His rifle had been melted an hour ago. He just had his fists. The Xylos stumbled back a step, more from surprise than force. It was like watching a fly trying to move a boulder. The alien let out a series of clicks and whistles that we'd come to learn was its equivalent of laughter. It swatted at Kai, a casual, dismissive gesture. But Kai was fast. He ducked under the swing and drove his shoulder into the alien's midsection. Still, nothing. The Xylos grabbed Kai by the throat, lifting him off the ground. We watched, helpless, as Kai's legs kicked in the air. The alien brought him close to its helmeted face. We could hear Kai gasping, choking. Rex screamed his name. And then, with a surge of what I can only describe as pure, undiluted rage, Kai did something that changed everything. He punched it, right in the faceplate. His knuckles connected with the flawless chrome. There was a dull thud. Nothing happened. The alien tilted its head, as if confused. Kai, his face turning purple, drew his arm back again. He wasn't aiming for a specific spot. He wasn't using any technique. He was just a cornered human, fighting with everything he had left. He punched it again, and again, and again. On the fifth punch, a sound cut through the chaos. A sharp, crystalline asterisk, crack asterisk. It wasn't loud, but in the sudden silence, it was like a thunderclap. We all stared. A hairline fracture, like a spiderweb on a frozen pond, had appeared on the alien's faceplate. The Xylos froze. It slowly lowered Kai, its grip loosening. It touched the crack on its helmet, its movements now uncertain, almost fearful. That was the moment. The moment the myth of their invincibility shattered. Kai, gasping for air on the ground, looked at his own hands. They were raw, bloody, and broken. His knuckles were pulp, but they hadn't cracked. The alien's advanced, dimension-hopping, physics-defying armor had cracked, but the human's fists did not. The Xylos looked from the crack in its armor to Kai's bloody hands, then to the rest of us. For the first time, we saw something other than contempt in its posture. We saw hesitation. We saw doubt. Rex was the first to react. "Charge," he roared, his voice filled with a hope we hadn't heard in days. That crack in the armor was a crack in their power, a crack in our fear. We learned something vital that day. Technology, no matter how advanced, can be broken. But the will of a single human, fighting for their home, for their friends, for their very survival, that's something you can't shatter. We still had a long fight ahead, but from that day forward, we weren't just dying. We were fighting back. The alien champion fell to his knees, bleeding, shaking. The arena went silent. Just moments before, the roar of the crowd had been a physical force, a tidal wave of sound from 100,000 throats, representing a dozen different species from across the galaxy. Now, nothing. Just the hiss of failing life support from his shattered armor and the ragged, desperate gasp of his own breath. He was Xyler, the unbroken, the pride of the Zenthian Empire, victor of 1,000 duels. He had never known defeat until today. His opponent, a Terran they called simply Kane, stood over him. Kane was smaller, less imposing, without the natural armor or the 4 powerful arms that Xyler possessed. He fought with a single blade of shimmering, energized steel, a relic from a forgotten war. It was that blade, moving with impossible speed, that had carved through Xyler's defenses, leaving him broken on the crimson sands of the Grand Colosseum. Xyler's vision blurred. The twin suns of Kythos beat down, turning the sand to a glittering, merciless expanse. He could feel the stares, not of admiration, but of shock and pity. His honor, his legacy, was evaporating under that silent, unified gaze. He tried to push himself up. A jolt of pure agony shot through his torso, and he collapsed back onto one knee. The blade had severed something deep, something vital. His primary respiratory system was failing, forcing him onto his secondary lungs, which burned with the unfamiliar, thin air of this planet. He looked up at the human. Kane's face was unreadable, hidden behind a simple helmet. There was no triumph in his posture, no gloating. He just stood there, the weapon held loosely at his side, its lethal hum a quiet counterpoint to the arena's deafening silence. Why wasn't he finishing it? The code of the arena was clear. Victory demanded a final, decisive blow. To leave an opponent in this state was the ultimate dishonor. "Why do you wait?" Xyler managed to rasp. the words feeling like shards of glass in his throat. Finish it. Claim your victory. The human Cain didn't move. Instead, a voice, filtered through his helmet's comes, echoed softly in the quiet. Victory isn't about finishing you, the voice said, calm and steady. It's about proving you could be beaten. Cain then did something that shattered every precept of gladiatorial combat Xyler had ever known. He deactivated his blade. The hum died, and the light faded, leaving just a simple metal hilt. Then, he extended his empty hand. Not in threat, but in offering. Xyler stared at the offered hand, his mind reeling. This was illogical, an act of mercy. Here, in this place built on blood and glory, he looked past Cain, up at the Imperial box where the Galactic Empress sat. Her face, usually a mask of stoic amusement, was etched with pure astonishment. The entire arena was frozen in this tableau of disbelief. A victor offering a hand to the vanquished. A human, a species considered newcomers, primitives, defying a millennium of tradition. He realized then that this wasn't about the fight. It was a message. Cain wasn't just defeating an opponent. He was challenging the very soul of the galaxy, the brutal rules they all lived by. With a final monumental effort, Xyler reached out, not to grab a weapon, not to make one last desperate attack, but to take the human's hand. His armored fingers, trembling, closed around Cain's gloved palm. The human pulled, not with the strength of a conqueror, but with the steady support of an equal. As Xyler was helped to his feet, a low murmur began to ripple through the crowd. It wasn't the roar of bloodlust or the cheer for a kill. It was something new, something uncertain, yet tinged with a strange kind of hope. Standing there, leaning on his former enemy, Xyler the Unbroken finally understood. He hadn't just lost a fight, he had witnessed the beginning of a revolution, and it began not with a final blow, but with a simple, defiant act of grace. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more.